And welcome to another episode of The Focal Thought. My guest today is Shantree Kacera. How are you, Shantree?
I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me for this.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show. And Shantree, you are an internationally recognized author, educator, and practitioner. You established the Living Center, which is the Eco Spiritual Education Sanctuary. It's a 50-acre botanical sanctuary outside London, Ontario, in Canada, along with your spiritual partner, Lorenna. And your education stems from work in nutritional medicine, constitutional medicine, and herbalism. And you've pretty much developed most of your life, sorry, devoted most of your life to this work and practice. So, once again, welcome on the show. And I'm excited to speak to you today on the topic of ecosomatics. Traditionally, we get caught up in our lives and we tend to separate things. Maybe it's, some fault of the ego as well. Maybe a good fault as well. We do need those divisions. But essentially, we tend to separate the mind, the body, the spirit, where we are geographically, where nature is, where space and time is. But essentially, we're all connected to this one grid. We overlap each other. And it's, being human, I sort of liken it to when you have a kaleidoscope and you're turning the kaleidoscope to get that one focus where everything is, clear. So being human, I think we have the capacity to take all the atoms of this world, which is essentially what it is. It's a quantum world. And being human, we have the ability to focus in on a certain point where we can see the world, understand the world, appreciate it. So I was wondering if you just start off with ecosomatics and how you got into it.
Well, to me, it's numerous things that are woven together. The term I use a lot right now is bioweaving, is weaving the different aspects or weaving ourselves back into the biological matrix because more and more people are being woven into the artificial matrix. And I don't have any opposition to that, but I feel like more and more we're disconnecting. And I believe that all disease starts because of disconnect. So when it comes to ecosomatics, is how the body can totally be engaged, how the body can be totally tap into the wisdom of the biological world, the way we talk about the web. We talk about the internet as a web. Well, there's a biological web, and the way that we know, actually, the way I do a lot of my herb walks, I'm in Costa Rica right now. We're here for 6 months. And I've been offering things in Canada as well as here. And the way I start the question is, how do you know that you know? So I'll take a plant or a leaf, and I do it here every Friday afternoon from 4 to 6. And people are there, but they don't know what the plant is. How do you know that you know? And it's a whole sensory experience of smell, of looking at the pattern, touching it. Eventually, we go into even tasting a little of the plant, and then there's going into a breath work, so that you go into a porous state. It's like, okay, how do I know this plant? How can my body tell me what this plant is? Instead of me teaching you what the plant is or going into tradition, this is how traditional people use the plant, or going now into science. If science says, oh, these chemicals are here, or these chemical constituents are here, or this is how herbalists have used the plant, or this is how we use it in nutrition if it's a nutritional plant. And so it's really being in the question. And if you're really porous and you allow yourself to be so relaxed, so open, then eventually that plant communicates to us. It communicates through its appearance of what the leaves look like, or the smell that's coming through, or the taste. So all those different ways is the way the body's language of communicating to us. And you could say it's a chemical language. My wife and I like to call it felt sense. So you're actually tapping in sensing sensations that are happening in your body before there's an emotion, before there's a thought. It's like, what starts to happen? Do you feel heat? Do you feel coolness? Is the plant coming? Is it taking you upward towards your head, towards your mind, or is it moving down towards your gut or towards your bowels? And if you give it long enough, is the plant calming you down, or is it actually activating you? Is it actually waking your consciousness, your mind, your emotions? Is there alertness that can happen the way people obviously think of when they drink a cup of coffee compared to having something like more relaxing, like a cup of chamomile tea? Those are obvious ones. But my work right now is how to really bring this forward so people get really curious and become so sensitive that the information is coming through directly from a plant, not from a person or a teacher or a tradition or science, even though that has a lot of validity, obviously. And I'm not saying going out there and taste anything you want, because there's a few plants, only 1 or 2% of plants in the world would actually kill you. But the other ones might, might get you sick, or they might get you into the hospital, but they won't actually kill you. So the majority of plants, what I'm trying to say, are actually safe. But it's taken in that microdose of what's happening. So the ecosomatics is using our senses to know the world around us. Instead of having screen time, you're having, nature time, you're having plant time to be with these plants. And if you're really curious, I've actually done this with a lot of times with kids, very young kids, like 8 to 12 years old, 8 to 11 years old. And they go out there in the garden, they just wander around, find a plant, and then we come into a circle, and every child has picked a plant. And I said, so what do you think this plant is? Who is this? And they will share stuff. And sometimes I just feel like I just have to sit down with, like, I'm just shocked of how much accuracy these kids have. And they don't know what the plant is. And I didn't teach them. I didn't go into a herb walk. It was them just being really curious of looking so closely at a flower, or the shape of the leaf, or where it was growing. And they come up with all these things. And it's like, wow, how they knew this. And that's how, obviously, all traditions of the planet, all traditions of the planet, that's how they eventually started to know these plants, before there was accumulation of tradition that formed, or now we have science that accumulates who the plant is. So when I talk about ecosomatics, it's to engage with our whole body. And the thing about our body is it doesn't lie to us. Our mind can trick us all kinds of somersaults. But when it comes to how do you know that you know, it's going through a lived experience. And it's a lived experience of the body. Another word I would like to use maybe in here is motion, that there's movement happening. It's a movement language. So if you start saying, well, I'm feeling warm from this plant, or it's starting to make me sweat, that is a truth. I don't care what anyone, even if I come along and say, no, it's not, it's a cold plant, it'll make it cold. It's like, nope, it's making me warm. That is a truth. And your body will not lie to you. And obviously a plant has many expressions as it goes through its lifetime, whatever part of the plant you're using, the root, the leaf, the flower, whatever you're using, it might have a different chemical present or a different signature at that time. And as the plant gets older, it might have a different expression, or if it goes into flower, it's a different gifting. I like to call it gifting, that the plants are giving to us by its beauty, or by its the chemical it releases through aromas or essential oils, or the chemical constituents that are actually in the plant. So to me, ecosomatics is really connecting to the ecological world, and that we are part of the ecological world. It's just the modern world right now has really gone into our heads and into academia and into our minds. We want to understand things really, really well. And little by little, the body is becoming numbed or overstimulated or dulled by the way we are as a humanity, as a culture in the world. Is more and more disconnection that's happening in the world. And a lot of people fear the natural world. It's like, oh my God, will that plant, give me a rash? Will it, and there's just so much fear. And I'm saying this more because at the Living Center now, we've been around for 45 years. So 2 generations of people have come through the center. And these 2 generations, I'm seeing with every passing year, with every, especially since the whole technological world explosion back about 25 years ago, there's more and more that people don't have a clue of what it is. In the ecological world, or in the herbal world, we call green blindness. There's this blindness, and we say, oh yeah, look at all that beautiful greenery, but how many different shades of green are there? How many different shades of textures are there? So the whole work that both my wife and I do is invite people to come back into connection with we call it our ecological self. So it's not just our body, but our body that moves outward. It's like when you see an apple, when's that apple become part of you? Is it when it's, is it when you see it? Is it when you smell it? Is it when you bite it? Is it when it's finally inside your gut? Or is it become when it's finally part of your blood? So that, or when you take a breath in, when's the breath actually in you and when's it not? So that we are not just under this skin, but we are actually beyond this. And to really feel that ecological self of who we are, it creates a compassion or a way to protect this beautiful planet that we live on. So maybe I'll just stop there with that simple question you asked, and yet it has a lot of tentacles of how it reaches of what ecosomatics is to me and how it's been evolving for my 50 years of walking this path.
Well, that's great because it is a concept unto its own. But like you said, there's many parts to it. It's multifaceted, and it evolves as well. And you doing the work, you're seeing it evolve in real time. You're at the leading edge of it. When you're doing something like this, I imagine at first you're engaging the basic, 4 or 5 senses that we have. But then to really get into the next step, you might be utilizing other senses that the body has, right? Because now we're getting into sort of intuition and insight. And to receive this information from these plants, it has to engage other subtle senses that we have, yeah?
Correct. So when I mentioned the words felt awareness or felt sense, it is before intuition. It's before a thought. It's before an emotion. It is pre. When you have just a little tingling of something and you can't even put your finger on it. It's like, what is that tingling? Should I go this way or should I go that way? And in other words, what we're getting into is the nervous system, the subtle part of who we are. And I guess some people might start going, try to call it mysticism or whatever. But the thing is, this is real. This is a real sensory body. It's a sensory awakening. And that's why I said in our culture today, it's like we are just overly stimulated and we go from uppers to downers. So in the morning, we start with our uppers, whatever that is for a person, be it sugars, be it caffeine, be it coffee, be it all the things that are available. And a lot of them are illegal. And we're doing that just to get ourselves going, and we go fast so we can get through the day. And at the end of the day, we want something that's a downer, and you're going to want some comfort, whatever those are, comfort foods, comfort, be it alcohol, whatever, but things that will calm you down. So it's like, okay, that was a really busy day. Now I want to, but the natural world, even though I know I'm talking a lot about the plants, but the other part before the plants is the elemental world, the elements of air, fire, water, earth, and space or ether. The elements are what create the natural world. So you take one element away and you're not here. I'm not here. The planet isn't here. And obviously the plant world isn't here. So the way we get to know some of the plants is what are the elements that are present? Like right now being in Costa Rica, it's just getting hotter and hotter. It's now starting to get to around 33, 34. And so you're just going to keep going up for another almost 2 more months until the rains come. So the sun element is what's really strong right now. And the rains come, then it becomes a different element. And the plants will start changing their chemicals. They'll change their expression or maybe they're celebrating saying, oh, good, rains are here. And after the rains, it's like, oh, good, the sunny season or the dry season is here. So those elements are coming in to create a uniqueness of the natural world. And then what we're doing is we're going into, and the reason this is so important for me is if we can learn how to go into the subtle and not to be overstimulated and not to be overdulled, we can now tap into intelligence, a natural intelligence that's here. It has to be here. I mean, the forest has to be behaving a certain way because there's all these relationships, all these plants, they're communicating with each other. They're exchanging nutrients, they're exchanging water, they're supporting each other. They're creating an ecosystem. So if it was just a plant by itself or a plant that's totally like, let's say a cornfield, those plants are not really, there is communication, but in many ways what's happening there is competition. That corn needs the same as that corn and that corn. But in an ecosystem or a forest setting, there's so much diversity there, from the bacteria to mycelium to the plants to the birds to everyone else who lives in that forest. And there's this communication, there's this language happening, but it's not a human language the way we speak with our mouths. It's a sensory of what they are. The trees communicating. Okay, I need some. I need more nitrogen, for example, and there's a plant way at the other end of the forest says, well, I've got some. And the mycelium brings that over to this one tree. And it's not root to root communication. It's root to mycelium to root. So they're communicating. And obviously we are nature. I don't believe that we are, we always talk about nature's out there and then over here is the human, or over here is me, the I, me, myself, and I. But there is a natural world that's communicating. And I want to be able to tap into that. No different than nowadays, we can just tap something on the keypad here and we get answers. Well, the plants are doing that as well. And I think that humanity is moving more and more, or closer and closer to that potential that could happen. But at the same time, there's another part where the humanity is actually getting further and further away because we're not spending enough time in the natural world, or we're not curious enough. So it is the nervous system becoming more fine-tuned to the way indigenous people knew the world around them. And I always call it not going backwards. So a lot of times when I talk about indigenous wisdom or indigenous knowledge, I'm not saying let's go back to that. I'm saying let's create the best of indigenous wisdom and the best of modern science. And you bring those together, and now we have a new humanity of how we can live on this planet. So it's not going backwards, and it's not just going forward without that wisdom. That wisdom has something that's really special for us. So we are tapping into ancestral memory. We are tapping into the plant intelligence that's there. And there's a community that is willing and is open to share with us if we choose to say, I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to center myself, and I'm going to go into that place of curiosity. So when I talked about doing this tree medicine journey every Friday, that's what we do. And then after everyone's had their experience, we actually sit in a circle and they share what they felt from the plant. And everyone has different senses that are sharper than others. Somebody said, oh, I could taste this. Or somebody said, oh, when I smelt this is what was happening. And we share that into a circle and put that into the middle. And at the very end, then I'll share what the plant is, because most people will not have a clue what the plant is. So anyways, that's the second part of the question you had asked about going deeper beyond the five senses. And that's why I called it the felt sense awareness.
The felt sense awareness. And to understand or to communicate with the plant intelligence, does the plant still have to be alive in soil, or can it be plucked out of its soil? And is the effect the same or not?
Really good question. So a lot of times what I do when I do these tree medicine journeys with people, the plant is picked very, very fresh, usually within half an hour. So the person can either be sitting up or be lying down, and they put them on their heart or wherever it feels comfortable. And then a lot of times part of the journey is their eyes are closed, and they'll take the leaf and put it on their skin or on their hand or on their cheek. So when a plant is fresh, it has the aliveness is there.
Yeah.
It communicates. It's more vibrant. When something is dried, or when something is made into, if you want to call it a tincture or an extract, or a capsule or a powder, or if it's frozen, or if it's dehydrated, and then you put into a jar and it sits in your pantry for weeks, months, maybe years. As time goes by, it loses that charge. I call it a charge. It could also be, chemically, it's losing some of its chemicals, losing some of its phytonutrients, or colors starting to be lost. So little by little, it starts to lose that. So the fresher a plant is, so in other words, if you were just sitting under a tree, would be actually the best, because that way you're not just getting one leaf, you're feeling the trunk, you're feeling the roots beneath you. If it's flowering, then you see the flowers, or there's, hundreds, if not thousands of leaves around you, above you. Obviously, then it's going to be that much more potent. The question is, there's other plants around it. So you got to be really centered, saying, I'm just centering on just one tree. So let's say you pick the maple tree since you're in Canada there. So you're focusing on that one tree and to be focused. So you're getting that, not the neighboring plants or the plants, beside you, or maybe even the plants beneath you if you're laying on grass.
Yes.
The simple answer is the fresher, the better, in the sense of the plant radiating and sending signals out to the world around it.
Got it. And when you're doing this, uh, communicating with this intelligence, now we're speaking of plants here. I'm assuming the same is with, humans, someone who's sitting quietly on a bus, you might be able to pick up off their energy. The same could be true with animals. What about things like, say, mountains or lakes? Is there an intelligence there, might you say? Have you ever dabbled into that or?
Yeah, I mean, my work has been obviously with the plant world, the green world, for my
Yeah.
50 years, because that's what my great grandmother was. So I picked that up at a very young age, knowing that this is my path, even when I was in high school. So you definitely can. I think the main thing is not just who the plant is or the mountain or the lake or whatever is there. It's it's your personal states. So half the work is clearing your slate, clearing your mind, or to go from the mind to sink down towards the heart, or go from the mind to the physical body, so that the mind can be totally relaxed and at ease. But see, nothing will reveal itself to you unless you're curious. If there's no curiosity, you can just walk by and it's like, oh, I didn't even see that dog. I didn't even notice that tree. You just walk by because you're just walking and you're not really paying attention or giving it any. But when you're curious, the plant or the dog or anyone would say, oh, you're interested in me. Okay, well, I'm going to, I'm going to befriend you, or we're going to start having a dialogue with each other because you're petting the dog and the dog's doing this. And little by little, there's a bonding that happens. So what we do here with our tree medicine journeys is everyone actually takes that leaf home, and I say, stay with that leaf for the whole week. And, wherever you want to keep it, you can keep it in your, beside your bed, on your altar, if you want to have it, in your kitchens or wherever, or at your desk, wherever you are. So you're always there. And every time you glance, it's like, oh, who are you? Oh, there you are. Oh, you're starting to dry up. Oh, this is what's happening. Or just pick up the leaf and start to smell it a little bit. Or if it's obviously, once you know the plant, then you can say, okay, I'm going to have a cup of tea with this, and I'm going to have 3 cups of tea of that for the whole week. So by the end of the week, you've drank in 21 cups of tea of that, because you're just saying, I'm really curious about you. And then some people, who are more artistic, will take a piece of paper and actually draw it, draw the veins, draw the texture. It's just, there's so many different ways to go in because you get curious. There's one herbalist in the States, and what she teaches is 1 herb a year. So in 10
Wow.
years, you're going to know 10 plants now in 10 years, right? So in other words, that's going really, really deep. I'm saying, wow, this one plant is going to be with me, and I'm going to journal it. I'm going to write it. I'm going to sleep with it. I'm going to bathe with it, because you say, and you're going to make medicine with it, etc. So there's ways of going deeper and deeper. So my most popular workshop that I've ever taught has been the 12 Essential Dozen, and I actually wrote a whole book on that, which is on our website, on the 12 Essential Dozen. And I used to teach that at Fanshawe College in London, because if you learn 12 plants really, really well, and the 12 that are chosen are the ones that you can actually eat. There can be medicine. It's the 12 that you can use as first aid. But 12 plants is a good number. It's like, okay, 12 is not overly, like 100. To remember 100 or learn 100 is hard, but to go just to a few, and you can create your own 12. It's just, these are my 12 that I've been using for most of the time I've had the center.
With some of your students who've done this work and have, taken a plant, maybe taken it home for a week or more, who are immersing themselves with the plant, who are reflecting, meditating with the plant, what are some of the top things you've noticed they've gained from the plant? Outside of maybe the general vibe that they get, maybe hot, cold, happy, sad,
Right.
maybe some more in-depth knowledge as to how the plant might work. What are some of the effects you've noticed from your students, or some of the knowledge gained, rather?
I'm going to say the main benefit is the nervous system. It regulates the nervous system. It shifts us. People who are, who have anxiety, who have, who can't sleep, if they got insomnia, people who are um, the nervous system is all over the place. They're either really hyper or they're very depressed or they're very, it's the nervous system that really makes the biggest difference for a person because the plants have a calming aspect to it. One of my teachers back in the 70s when I studied with him, and he said, if you're green inside, you're clean inside. So the question is how to have more greenery in coming into our landscape, into our organism. I call the organism compared to, emotions or mind or body, but the whole organism. If you take that in, that calms it. Just looking outside, I mean, I know you have probably a lot of white right now in Toronto, even though I know it's warmer, but here where I am, I look out the window and everything's just green, green, green. The more green I look at, the calmer I get. If I drink green things, be it a green smoothie or green juice, that calms me down. So, and also nutritionally, they have the B vitamins, they have magnesium, manganese, pretty much everything that our nervous system needs. So it calms us down that way. So that's the greatest benefit. It's just saying, you know what, I'm going to hang out with some of my really beautiful green friends. And by hanging out with them, you start to shift your frequency or you shift your behavior. And you start to feel not so anxious and not so stressed because you got a deadline coming up or it was a really crazy busy week or busy day, and just going and being with them for half an hour. And once you get really good at this practice, eventually it doesn't take that long. I just look out the window and within 10, 15 minutes, my nervous system is shifting. But the other one is you learn how to sense things. So it eventually does lead to, you said earlier, your intuition or your gut sense is, you know what, this is not the right choice for me. I can go this direction, I can go this direction, or I have a job offer, this one or that one. So gradually what happens is your inner knowing, because if you've done it with the plant world or if you've done it with something that has a slower speed than what we do, through these practices, that's one of the greatest things that happens, is that you are now more centered, more grounded, and less likely to make a mistake or have an accident or do something that you might regret. So it does help us to get through our day or get through life.
Oh, that's amazing. And
remember, the term I used was bioweaving. We are weaving ourselves back to the biological, because right now we've gradually been left and we've become technological compared to biological. Even a lot of the words that used to be in dictionaries, 30, 40, 50 years ago are gradually leaving the dictionary. And it's more of the technological language that's going into dictionaries. But words that, your parents, your grandparents used, little by little, those words are being lost, which means the English language, or not just English, but languages around the world are changing because we're so caught up now in the technological world. So that's what we call, I just had a software update. Well, it's like, I didn't have a software update. I might have had a biological update. I might have had an immune response or immune update by going through and having a cold or flu. My immune system kicked in and got stronger. But yet, interestingly, how we use terms that are not biological, and we're starting to use terms on ourselves or with our day. It's like, oh, this is what happened, and as if we are computers. And so to me, I find that, I try to encourage people to keep using the biological world so we don't forget that we are biological humans.
yeah, no, that's very true. And as we head into an age where we see, technology like Neuralink becoming more popular and integrated into the system, we're definitely at the risk of losing our humanity. And I personally, myself, I try to make a conscious decision, try to be aware as much of how much I'm using technology, how much I'm, using social media. Again, I don't want to go back to the past. Like you're saying, it's good to balance with the future, but just
Yes.
to be aware of your humanity because, we're humans at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And humanity is our greatest strength because it's how um, the world was, at that point naturally set up when we came to it, right? Like computers didn't exist when we came to the world. We alchemized
Yeah.
technology and things like that.
Yeah.
If I can ask you finally, because you have spent some time in Canada and some in Costa Rica, do you notice off the top of your somatic experience differences between plants in the Costa Rica environment versus the Canadian environment. And I know it's not fair for, especially, the eastern side of Canada because during winter, plant life halts essentially, right? So they don't have that advantage. But any thoughts on that or?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on that. You work with what you got. So if there's a way to bring the plants into your home and then preserve them during those months when the plants are not as abundant or they're not as vibrant, because there's ways of bringing them in, either to have them growing as house plants or by drying them in a certain way or preserving them a certain way or for food or for medicine. There's ways of doing that. The biggest aha I had, because I've been here now 4 months this year, so that's why we've got another almost 2 more months to go. And the thing about the tropics, and obviously I can only speak to this country because this is where I've been coming for 30 years now, is Costa Rica, is that there is more tree medicine here than there is herbal medicine. So in Canada or the Northern Hemisphere, there's a lot more herbs. Where you are, where I am, around Toronto, London area, we have about 77 native trees, native. If you go to Algonquin Park, or you go, a few hours just north of Toronto or north where we are, you have about 20. So the tree population really drops. And I don't actually know the exact number of how many trees are here in Costa Rica, but I know there's a lot more than there is herbs. There's obviously a lot of vines as well, vine medicine. But just to give an example of the diversity that's here, on 50 acres in the tropics would have more diversity of life, of vegetation than all of Canada and the United States put together, from East Coast to West Coast, from all the way north, all the way down to California and Florida, just on 50 acres. So there's a lot of diversity here, and that's why people are really trying to do whatever they can to preserve it so that we don't keep losing this diversity. One tree could have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of species on that tree, growing on the tree or in the tree, or be it moss, be it ferns, whatever. It is such a tree is a whole ecosystem. And when that tree comes down, it goes a whole ecosystem. Of course, it changes and other things start to occur. But it's a very, it's a fascinating, it's like being here, I feel like a kid again, because I feel like I'm learning the last 30 years of knowing tropical plants and how they work. But and that's why here, because we're establishing ourselves here, is I'm using trees. Trees are my medicine, and the part I'm using is actually what's called the meristem, or the new part that's just emerging or it's also called bud therapy, or it's also called gemotherapy, of what's coming through. So I'm not using the bark or the roots or the leaves. I'm using just this new part that's just starting to emerge. So it's a cross between herbalism and homeopathy. It's very energetic type of medicine, and a person only needs a few drops of something to support them. And that is what I've been doing for the last 4 months, is finding out what these plants are. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm sharing that with people. But the whole invitation, hopefully that's coming through with your listeners, is to just be really curious. Don't taste or eat anything if you don't know what it is. I mean, obviously you can smell it, you can handle it through the other senses, but just get curious. And once you know the plant, that's an advantage to you, but in some ways it's actually a disadvantage, because then you're in your head. And people always say, what was your experience like, Shantree, doing this exercise? And it's like, it was great, but the thing is, I actually knew what the plant was. But my thing is, when I go into it, is I pretend I don't know, or I'm saying, what else can I feel from this plant? What else is happening in my body? So it's a little bit harder work for me, because my mind just keeps kicking in. It's like, oh, I already know what this chemical is. I know what's in this leaf, what's in this plant. If somebody doesn't know, then they're just in their body, because it's the senses. They're saying, okay, how is this moving? So it's the practice. So we call it our spiritual practice, is to be present with this being, with this plant, with this tree, with this herb, whatever you're using. It's just like, I want to know it at another level, going deeper and deeper. And there's so many layers. There's so many layers. Just because you know the name or you know the scientific name or Latin name, and just because you know the chemicals and taste keeps going and going and going. How long does it take to get to know another person? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? Actually,
Yeah, sure.
my wife and I have been married. We got married here in Costa Rica in 2003, and sometimes we're with each other. We're intimate. We're close. And she looks at me, looks like right deep into my eyes. She goes, "Who are you?" After 30 years of being together, and it's like, "Who are you?" And to be in that question, because there's obviously another layer. It's not just because I know her for 30 years. It's like there's more, and there's more, and there's more. And that's the beautiful thing about going into the natural world. There's just so much stuff that's still out there that humanity doesn't have a clue. Even though science is, coming up with this chemical, that chemical, but it's like there's so much more to know. And that part is exciting to me. It just keeps me curious. And at the same time, I know we didn't talk a lot about this, but through the whole process, there's a regeneration or a healing process that's happening for that person. So yes, you're learning something, but there's also a therapeutic part that comes through of what this plant is doing for you. So it's both. You're learning and the plant is shifting. I know I focused on the nervous system, but there's other things that are going on as well.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And once again, thanks again for coming on the show. And I'll put your contact information in the show notes. And I
Thank you.
wish you well. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. Blessings.